We all know Charlie Kirk as the founder of Turning Point USA. He was a prominent conservative activist known for his popular and viral video content, which we've all come across at some point. He would travel to college campuses to talk to any and all who would talk to him. On those college campuses, he would engage mostly college students on topics ranging from politics, religion, and culture in general. His approach was clear. He wanted to speak to young students about their beliefs. Instead of just hosting his show as he did online, like many others do, keeping it online where it's nice and safe, he decided to take his approach from online directly to the college campuses across the United States and Europe, putting himself at risk, as we all know now. Just a few years of blending live confrontations with a lot of his viral social media clips made his content explode across the world. His critics accused him of espousing hateful views, and they see his arguments as inflammatory and selective at causing outrage within certain subgroups, while his supporters credited how he revitalized the conservative movement by engaging those college kids through skillful debate that had otherwise been abandoned by the conservative movement. Regardless of whether or not you agreed with Charlie Kirk's message, in this video I will share why he was so effective at what he did. First, Kirk was an autodidact. He taught himself mostly all of what he spoke about. He also had a sort of encyclopedic memory where on the spot he could recall statistics, historical details, and policy nuances on demand almost, without relying on any notes or scripts in front of him. Because he was able to go off the top of his head, he was able to engage in real time with those on the left side of the political spectrum. This, of course, is something rarely seen in the opposite direction, left to right. Instead of passing judgment or trying to convince the person he would engage with, Charlie would invite and hold an open debate so that the spectators could observe the exchange of ideas for themselves, essentially making the viewer the judge of whose argument was better, his or the opponent. Charlie's focus was in placing the viewer, you, in the driver's seat. He was speaking to you, not so much the person in front of him. In every video clip of Charlie, we are forced to ask ourselves, is what he is saying logical or is it illogical? And if it is logical, then he just made his point. Charlie also committed left-leaning arguments to memory, and he would address left-wing arguments and points by avoiding generic rhetoric in favor of targeted rebuttals. So instead of poking fun at an idea, he would cite specific sources or specific pieces of evidence that would dismantle the argument presented. He essentially knew the points they were going to make before they, the student or staff member at the college, ever even voiced them. Charlie was also very polite most of the time. Unlike many pundits who interrupt, speak over, or grandstand, Kirk rarely got personal. He rarely lost his composure, even in heated exchanges that turned personal. Kirk would also always allow his opponents to finish their thoughts before responding. He popularly would place his microphone down on the table in front of him, almost as a way of mitigating and hedging against the inclination to cut someone off, which we all do. Charlie always maintained a calm, respectful demeanor. Since he was constantly accused of spreading hatred, it was odd to see a calm man having peaceful discussions, logically disarming every argument presented to him with grace and humility. Kirk also employed the Socratic method to help get to the source of the claims made by those who disagreed with him. He would present pointed questions to expose the contradictions in his opponent's reasoning, forcing them to tie themselves into knots without resorting to being overtly aggressive or inflammatory in any way. He would simply guide the opponent or the person that's questioning what he's saying through their own thinking by asking them follow-up questions, which is very dangerous if the person is just not willing to follow along. Also, beyond just college students, Charlie Kirk was also willing to spar with figures like the theocratic pastor Doug Wilson or the monarchist Curtis Yarvin. and that broadened his appeal within the conservative ecosystem. His fearlessness was largely rooted in his faith in Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. His faith and popularity are what positioned him as a bridge between traditional conservatism and contemporary online right-wing trends. Charlie Kirk's critics have argued that his success largely stemmed from debating inexperienced college students or even the way he edited his video clips, and that he struggled against seasoned opponents. Regardless of your view of Charlie Kirk, we can all agree that his model of prioritizing facts over emotions, asking questions instead of shouting what he believed, has set a standard for conservative activism. Charlie not only influenced an enormous amount of young college-age students to register to vote, but he increased voter turnout among those same young students, especially those students who prioritized persuasion over polarization. In this polarized era we are currently living in, Kirk's style reminded audiences that debate and conversation is the only answer. Charlie Kirk was martyred on September 10, 2025, for the things he believed and the ideas he shared with the public. He was assassinated because he was very effective at what he did. He was a father of 2 young children. He was a husband, a business owner, and a man of God. The only question left to ask ourselves is, what will we do now? The United States continues to be divided just as it has always been since its founding. But Charlie decided to speak his mind despite that division. Despite all of the death threats and protests that were aimed at stopping his voice, he pressed onward. Charlie ran the race. Now that he is gone, conservatives are asking themselves, how will they carry on his legacy into the future? And Charlie's opponents have created a chain reaction that will result in thousands, if not millions, taking up the same flag Charlie died carrying. And that leaves us with one question left to answer. Would you speak your mind even when the world disagrees with you? It's time to speak. It's time to run that race. Near the end of St. Paul's life, in his final letter to Timothy, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7-8, we read from Paul, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing.